Hi there, it's Rory from ukdoctorandfire.com, and this is a story of essentially how I created £24,300 in 6 months between, I think, about October 2020 and March of 2021, earlier this year. The title, of course, is a little bit of a clickbait, although the figure £24,300 is entirely accurate, as was the 6 month period that I just mentioned. However, obviously, the journey it took did not happen overnight or even over 6 months. I'm currently 31 years of age, and started initially investing about the age of 22, right after I graduated from Glasgow University in Scotland in the UK. So the table that you see on the screen is a representation of the quarterly passive income that I received in October, November and December of 2020. And the figure that you see of £16,714 and 10 pence is essentially the total passive income that I received during this time. And as you can see, it's mainly consisting of investing income, which is um, very high during the month of November and December for various reasons that I can explain later, but also consists of a small but not insignificant amount from side hustle income and also dividend income as well. As you can see, I think the total of those two areas probably add up to about £1,000 over the 3 months. So a similar story can be told when you look at the screen now, with the next screenshot of the table showing the passive income from the quarter earlier this year, and therefore representing January, February and March. And as you can see, the passive income was slightly more varied in terms of the different sources, but largely the numbers, in terms of the relative numbers, were similar. So investing income took the spotlight, while side hustle and dividend income was supporting. And interestingly, I fortunately received about £30 in free tournament tickets in January, and therefore that's probably the highlight of my passive income report of quarter one, because I managed to turn that £30 after a few hours of battling against reasonably good players online. Managed to convert that into £335, as you can see, of course with a lot of luck, but also with a bit of grinding as well. So it perhaps might be naive to think that I created this passive income, £24,300 in the space of 6 months just from scratch. And I present these tables in this presentation not to show off, but more to demonstrate that it's something that's really achievable with a bit of clarity and a bit of thought, especially for someone who is completely naive to personal finance or financial independence, just to get some guidance to really realize that this is an achievable feat for most people with a bit of effort. So as you can see, the next slide shows my initial passive income when I first began really tracking my personal finance in 2016, which was about 4 years after I had become a doctor and started earning money. As you can see, my initial payments were really just interest from the bank. Back then, you'll recall 5 years ago, the interest rates were slightly higher by banks, and I think it was in the region of about 2%, maybe 2.5%. So, for example, if you deposited £50,000 in the bank account, you would receive £1,000 every year just by depositing money there. So I think I had about £25,000, which is why I received about £40 every month or so. To me, that was a lot of money back then, because that would pay for my gym membership. It might even pay for a few coffees as well, and the income to expense ratio. So it only cost about £5 for the bank account, whereas I was regularly getting £40 back. So to me, that was a lot of passive income back then. You can also see peer-to-peer constituted a much larger part of my portfolio than it does nowadays. And again, I can explain to you why I slowly reduced the amount of peer-to-peer exposure I had over the years. Stocks and shares, which I retermed as investing, stayed similar, so it's still a major part of my portfolio. You can see another interest payment there in December, as well as the side hustle income, which was just when I first started writing books and started creating other avenues for income. And as you can see, quarter four, even 4 years after graduating and starting earning real money, I still managed to make a decent amount of money in those 3 months. Not you know life-changing amount of money, but about £300 a month was still a lot of money for me back then. The same goes with quarter one 2017. As you can see, I think the bank had cut the interest payments from 2.5% to maybe 1.5%, something like that, but kept the expenses the same. So my interest payments received quite a hit in quarter one of 2017, as you can see, but largely everything else really remained the same. And as you can see, quarter one had a similar amount of passive income, about £814.31. So the next slide that you see on your screen is quarter two and quarter three of 2017, which is continuation of the last slide. And as you can see, we're just slowly, steadily increasing our passive income from all different sources. So for example, the interest payments rose slightly, but mainly that was due to the fact that I was depositing a little bit more money rather than the bank being more generous, because that's also a naive interpretation of how the world works. Peer-to-peer interest also began to rise in the months that weren't, the end of the quarter. So, for example, April, May, and July and August, those months I started delving more into the peer-to-peer income, because that was a substantial amount of my passive income, and in a way I kind of got greedy, and perhaps I'll explain in a later video why this was quite erroneous in my part and led to the downfall of my passive income round about 2018-2019, when I suffered quite a significant shortfall. Side hustle income also began to grow, so you can see from April down to May to June. So I think May was a wee bit of a blip whilst I was growing my income, but certainly into July, August and September was when it started really to take off in terms of my Kindle publishing income. Side hustle income and also stocks and shares, as you can see, will continue to grow as time goes on, whereas peer-to-peer was slowly getting phased out. So without making this video a mammoth of a video, I just wanted to end this by plugging in the UK Doctor Finance Guide that I wrote over the Christmas period. And essentially it's a guide to take you through how I created a net worth of £250,000 in the space of 6 to 7 years after graduation. It also takes you through key concepts that every doctor has to consider when achieving financial independence, or at least financial literacy. And that would be including whether to achieve consultant status as quickly as possible, or taking years out to locum for higher pay, and this is always going to be a trade-off. You might want to consider, work-life balance as well when pursuing financial independence, and it's not just a case of taking up as many locum shifts as possible and burning out your own entire body, of course. There are many more concepts in the book, and it has been highly rated by everyone who has read it so far. You can get your own PDF copy from my website, which I'll link in below in the description, or you can get it from Amazon directly as a paperback copy, which I'll link below as well. And last of all, if you could like, comment and subscribe to show me that this video has been somewhat helpful, or at least interesting, then I'll create a part 2 to talk about other concepts that I promised, such as why I reduced my peer-to-peer exposure and increased my stock investing exposure, and essentially what I think will happen in the next 5 to 10 years in the investing space. But until then, good luck, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon.